You have 6 kids. You homeschool. Did you always envision yourself in this lifestyle?
I would have never dreamt that I'd have 6 kids. I was so buying into the feminist lie back then.
So, what did that process look like, getting from being feminist to valuing the work of the home?
So I used to be a college softball coach,
Mm.
or then I had my first child. It was so hard to hear him in the stands crying, being letting down milk and knowing I can't go nurse him right now. I'm coaching a softball game. At the end of that year, God made a way for me to be at home, and I've never looked back.
You actually went on the Dave Ramsey show and did the debt-free scream. Tell us a little bit about your journey with finances and what led you to that point.
I can vividly remember looking out my window, washing dishes with toddlers underfoot, feeling the weight of $80,000 worth of debt, feeling like, how are we ever going to get out from underneath this?
Well, Lana, thanks so much for joining me today.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be here, Hannah.
So you have 6 kids. You homeschool, which to a lot of people is just amazing that you can do that. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Did you always envision yourself in this lifestyle, or was that something that took you totally off guard?
Oh man, I would have never dreamt that I'd have 6 kids. I I was so buying into the feminist lie back then.
Mm.
I would have never dreamt I'd have 6 kids, but I love it so much. I know it sounds a little crazy to some people. I might be a little crazy, but it's really the best. It's really the best. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. So was there a big shift then? Because I grew up homeschooled and I love that experience. But I feel like for a lot of people that just seems really weird. The idea of having a larger family seems really weird. So what did that process look like, getting from being feminist to valuing the work of the home?
Totally. Okay. So I used to be a college softball player, used to be a college softball coach, and I really never dreamt that I would be a homemaker. And there was just this huge shift when I came to know the Lord in college where it was like, okay, maybe this is something I would really want to do. And then when I actually lived with a family, I was getting my master's at University of Tennessee, trying to get ready to coach college softball. I actually lived with a family of
Hmm.
4 small kids. I lived on their 3rd floor. I was like a nanny, and they discipled
Oh.
me, and I saw their family, and I was just amazed at how
Hmm.
sweet and how
Hmm.
real that family was. They would even just let me see, when things were crazy and all of that. And I was like, I
Hmm.
want this so badly that even when I became a college softball coach and then I had my first child, I loved being with those girls. I loved coaching them.
Hmm.
And yet I wanted to be at home with my own son. And so there was
Hmm.
just this shift where God just switched things in my heart. And I realized being with my children is like one of the greatest honors. And then getting to see individually who they are, each one of them. But
Hmm.
I was not homeschooled, and I'm super jealous that you were because there's probably so many things you learned life skill wise. I was so unprepared to be a mom.
Oh, I think it takes everyone off guard, to be honest. Like, I was homeschooled and my mom did a great job, but it's so different. And I've heard this from a lot of people too. It's just so different when you're caring for them around the clock and making all these judgment calls instead of just like executing whatever your mom said to do. So it's very different. So that is so cool. So when you had your first son, did you ever do the daycare thing, or like from day one, you were impacted by that family and then you wanted to stay home?
I knew I wanted to stay home. I had got myself caught in my word. I had given a
Hmm.
3-year commitment in exchange for some scholarship money for my husband in my first coaching
Okay.
job. I already had my master's. I didn't need my master's. So they gave that master's money to my husband for physical therapy school. But
Gotcha.
I got
Okay.
pregnant a year and a half in and
Hmm.
really
Hmm.
had this hard moment of, am I going to keep my word? My
Hmm.
word is important.
Hmm.
And yet all of me wants to be home with my baby. And it was turmoil for me because
Hmm.
once I saw him, I didn't think I could leave him.
Hmm.
I feel so much for the moms that want to be stay at home moms. And because they
Hmm.
have gotten themselves caught in their word, either through paying back debt or
Hmm.
whatever it might be, and then they can't be at home with. I felt that so heavily. I had some really dear best friends from church who all had flexible jobs. And the
Hmm.
Lord worked it out where Nicole took Monday, Carmen took Tuesday, Kelly took Wednesday, and they came
Aw.
over and they rocked him and stayed with him so I could go to practice. And then I worked from home in the morning. So the Lord pieced it together in a way that I
Hmm.
can't even comprehend when I look back. But it was so hard to hear him in the stands crying, being
Aw.
letting down milk and knowing I can't go nurse him right now.
Aw.
I'm coaching a softball game. But at the end
Hmm.
of that year, God made a way for me to be at home, and I've never looked
Hmm.
back. I know for sure I want to be a stay-at-home mom.
Well, and I think it's actually really valuable that you've had that experience because I think some people only have the experience of being home and it can be a kind of the grass is always greener scenario where they think like I would be so fulfilled if I was out. I mean, you had kind of a
Mm.
really cool job by the world standards, honestly, like coaching softball. And you said was it at the collegiate level?
It was.
Or
It
yeah.
was at Azusa Pacific out in California.
Okay.
So it was a great experience,
Yeah.
great school, a
Yeah.
Christian school. I could share my faith, all the things.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yet I couldn't be with my baby in the fullest capacity that I wanted to be, you know.
Yeah. Wow. It's really beautiful just to hear your journey and how the Lord eventually provided. One thing you mentioned was the financial strain piece. And something I've been wanting to ask you about is the fact that you actually went on the Dave Ramsey show and did the debt free scream, which I feel like a lot of people cannot say. So, can you tell us a little bit about your journey with finances and what led you to that point where you got to do that?
Oh man, I look back and it's one of those things you're like, I'm so glad you brought me through that, Lord, but I would never want to have to do that again. And yet it did
Hmm.
so many things for our marriage to have to work on that big goal of paying off debt together.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it's very common. Like we talk to people at church all the time and that's help they're like, help me. I am in a
Hmm.
lot of debt. And so I can resonate with them. So yeah, we got out of physical therapy school and praise the Lord, we had only, this sounds crazy, only $80,000 worth of debt, but
Hmm.
that school was really expensive. So I kind of thought that a lot of it would be paid for with my job, but just the nature of it being a doctoral program, it was super expensive. And so
Hmm.
we
Hmm.
came out, we had $80,000 worth of debt, and a physical therapy job doesn't quite match that payoff
Hmm.
living in Tennessee. And so we had a big hurdle ahead of us. But
Hmm.
listening to the Dave Ramsey show almost daily gave me so much motivation. I can vividly remember looking out my window in Tennessee. I could look out and kind of see the mountains. I'm washing dishes with toddlers underfoot, feeling the weight of $80,000 worth of debt
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
feeling like, how are we ever going to get out from underneath this? And I would listen to the Dave Ramsey show, and they have people who call in and they share how much debt they have. And when I would hear $100,000, 200,000, 300,000, I would think, okay, this sounds terrible, but if they could pay off that much debt, I can pay off 80,000. And
Hmm.
so we went away to like a small Airbnb and we worked backwards. And we just said, okay, if we paid this much a month and we worked backwards, how many months would it take us? But then
Hmm.
also we just said, Lord, you have to make a way. Like
Hmm.
we don't we don't want it to take years and years and years. And God opened up a door for my husband to do a type of physical therapy that was really boring
Hmm.
but very lucrative. And so we just went after it. I mean, every single week, I was like, can we put $20 more? Can we put $40 more? And then when we paid
Hmm.
it off, my husband applied to be on the Dave Ramsey like we just applied and anybody can apply if they paid off debt.
Huh.
And it was so fun. I highly recommend anybody who's paid off debt just to apply. It's like the best experience.
So when you go on, like I've only heard like the scream part. So do you like get to tour the facilities? Do you meet any of the people there, or do you just like what is that process like?
Yeah, you just show up to the studio. They prep you before and they
Okay.
have like a hospitality team and they treat you so well. You
Oh.
go in and they give you a little bit of swag and they just kind of prepare you and then yeah, you just get on and on air and you talk to whoever's hosting that day, but that day it was Dave Ramsey.
How
And
cool.
then
Wow.
you tell your story, he asks you a couple questions and then you count it down as a family. So, yeah,
That's so
it was awesome.
cool. So, was there ever a point? Because I think there's like kind of two sides to this. There's like looking back on what you did, but then there's like getting there. And I think there are a lot of people, maybe even people listening, who are in the shoes of having all that debt, and but. I guess there's this piece of delayed gratification that I think a lot of people miss where it's like paying down debt means that you will feel discomfort and you will have things you could technically purchase and just wait longer to pay off debt, but you have to like forego that. I guess it's not just that the numbers somehow magically work out. Like so were there things you had to go without that you remember like I used to have to go without this, now I don't?
Yes, absolutely. I think I think what was really important was we had the why behind it. My
Hmm.
husband really wanted to go into full-time ministry, and I was like, "We cannot until
Hmm.
we handle this debt," because I knew that
Hmm.
the income would be less, and he agreed with me,
Hmm.
but we just really knew this is going to be a big ball and chain around us until we take care of this, and we need to take care of this so that we are unshackled to go and do as the Lord would call us to do. But really, we didn't quite have the freedom to go. And amazingly, later, once we paid off our debt and all those things, we were able to take a ministry job to move cities, and we were ready to go, and we had the freedom to go, and we were able to then buy the house that we're in now. And we would not have been able to do any of those things had we not paid off debt. But I mean, even innocent things like some of our best friends after church going like, "Hey, can you come to Chipotle after we're..."
Hey, mamas. I just wanted to say thank you so much for all the kind words that you have sent over how these episodes have blessed you and brought value to your life. If that is you, I wanted to ask if you would consider supporting me through Buy Me a Coffee. You can pick the amount. You could do a one-time donation to say thank you, or you could do a monthly option. If you choose the monthly option, you do get to ask questions to the guests prior to when they come on the show. So basically, you send me their questions, then I can ask the guests the questions that you have. So it basically just provides another touch point for you guys and a way for you to make sure you're getting the content that you enjoy on this show. So if you found value from these podcasts, I would love it if you would check out the link below. Thanks so much, and let's get back to the episode.
After a bunch of us are going. And it's like, no. I mean, we felt so lame. We felt so lame. And they would tease us.
For a little bit.
You just come on. It's just one meal. But we had like a commitment to ourselves, and and it was really, really tight. But we look back and it was worth it. And now some of those people even circle back and like, hey, can you help me with this or that? So yeah, I think it's always worth it.
Yeah, because I do think there is an element, like we've had to do that too when we were paying off we didn't have as many student loans, but even just, I think we had like 10,000 when we got newly married. And even that, it's like, it was kind of embarrassing when we would have people over and it was like black beans. I don't know. Like, it just, not that you have to do that with everything, but I think what you're saying is so valuable is it's like you pay that cost up front and then later you reap the benefits. And I think that is really valuable. And even that you could go into ministry, because I have known people that is the reason they can't do missions, is because they have like $100,000 of debt, or known of people in that situation, which is really difficult.
Totally.
One of the things that I love about your YouTube channel, which is Girl Teach Me, so our listeners should definitely go check that out, is you talk a lot about motivation in motherhood. And I think you have a really unique perspective because you've coached sports. So I kind of feel like your channel is almost like being coached as a mom to level up, which I really enjoy. But I wondered if you would speak to motivation in motherhood, because it is a really unique job where you don't have anyone telling you what time you need to report, what tasks you need to get done. You don't have anyone setting deadlines for yourself. So what do you do as a mom when you aren't feeling motivated?
Oh, so it's so good that just everything you said right there, because it's so true. We don't have a quote unquote master telling us, like, we don't have this like boss that's like looking over our shoulder. I have to check in, like we've talked about, like audience of one. Like I just heard you say that on the last podcast you were on, audience of one. And when I'm reminded that the eyes of the Lord are everywhere, they're good eyes, they're loving eyes, but he does see all that I do. And I owe it to him to steward my home as best I can, my relationships with my kids as best I can, my marriage as best I can. It motivates me, but not every day. Some days I don't want to get out of the bed. I mean, if we're all being honest, it all feels like it's too much sometimes. We feel overwhelmed, or there's just the idol of comfort. Like, oh, this is so uncomfortable to have to go and discipline this child again, or clean up breakfast for the umpteenth time. And I just know that it's all so meaningful and it is all so important. But if we're all being honest, it's really hard sometimes. It's not hard all the time, but it's hard sometimes. And we all need encouragement. We all need motivation, because it leaks every day. I might have been motivated yesterday. I'm not motivated today.
Right.
And that's why we need relationships, and we need the word. We need him to speak in every day and just give us some wind to our sails. And so I think that was my hope with the YouTube channel, is that, okay, maybe she can put this on. It'll put a little wind in her sails today. It'll help her remember this is so important. It is so important, even if nobody gives me hand claps today. You were talking about in the last podcast you were on how it's not a job that people are like, wow, you're a homemaker. That's so impressive. Our culture, like, it does make us, we have to resist it, but it does want us to feel like, okay, you are wasting your education. You are wasting your life. Couldn't be further from the truth. But we need to be reminded.
Yeah, so for you, it sounds like it started with kind of just the concept that, like, the Lord still knows every detail of our lives and both his love for us and all that he's done for us and wanting to honor him, but also stewarding that well. I'm curious what you would say, because I think that's really important just to have that mindset. If you don't have that mindset as a mom, you are going to struggle because your kids certainly aren't telling you, Mommy, it's so meaningful that you're changing my diaper again. I just really appreciate that you're running our home. Like, you don't hear that for a long, long time.
Mm.
What would you say, though, to a mom maybe that she understands the big picture piece? Like, yes, the Lord sees, but there's still just that, like, I'm sure maybe from your videos, I think you have gotten to this point at different times where you just look around and everywhere you look, there's chaos. Like, there's mountains of dishes, mountains of laundry. The kids are fighting. You're sleep deprived because you've been up with the newborn. You have work on your business to do. Your husband needs help. And it's just like, where do I start? So what do you do? It sounds like you don't get to that point to the same extent because you have good rhythms and routines, but what would you say to a mom that's in that state where it's just like chaos and overwhelm? How do you get motivated when your life is like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd still get that way because seasons change. I mean, I might be clicking at a good pace and then somebody's teething. I might be clicking at a different pace and then hormones change for my 12-year-old. I mean, life just, I feel like God gives us respite seasons where we kind of come up and sometimes it feels good for a while. And then it's kind of like we're back in the fire. We're back in the battle. The seasons change. And so I think the enemy wants women to feel like they're the only one and nobody else's house looks like a dumpster fire at some point. Obviously, the goal is that we move beyond that. But there are seasons that it just is for a little while. I try to think about it as best I can like a labor pain. It's a working pain. It's not a hurting pain. This moment, it might feel like chaotic for a little while, but then I have to tell myself the labor pain doesn't go on and on and on and on. We get to breathe in between. And so my house can be torn to shreds, but the reality is I can probably put it back together in about 1 hour. Especially if we do a 10-minute cleanup together, it can look like a totally different house in about 10 minutes. It can, especially if I take a garbage sack and do some trash bag therapy and walk around and sorry, everybody's art project's got to go. Mama's overstimulated. So I guess the first piece is just encouragement that everybody has those moments. It's just not, you're usually not getting welcomed into somebody's house during those moments. So it's easy to feel isolated, like you're the only one. But I think just to remember, and that's why I say that all the time on YouTube is like a 10-minute timer, a 10-minute timer, do a doable portion, because that's usually the first place I start. I just say, okay, I'm going to stay in one room. I'm going to make this room better. So at least if the house is falling apart, I have one space that feels better than the rest. That's just how I cope with it generally.
I love that timer idea because I think when you're sitting on the couch just looking around at everything, that's the moment where even just a little bit of progress will get the momentum started. But if you can't get that initial momentum, you stay stuck. So I think that's really good. And I think it's so important that you just said that. Like, it is normal to occasionally have a season like that, because I do think I even have believed that lie as a mom that if that I'm a failure if my house is ever trashed. And we're actually going through a kitchen remodel right now, and it just really, whether or not you have good routines and rhythms, like, there's only so much you can do when you don't have a sink and you're washing dishes in your bathtub and your 1-year-old's crawling all over you while you do that. And it's just been very humbling, and I've had to kind of fight that lie that I'm a failure because my house isn't perfect. And I think it's actually really encouraging to hear that from a mom a little bit further down the road, saying it's normal to have seasons like that. We don't want that to be the norm. If you are in the season, here's what you could do to get out of it. Another question I had, and it's very perfect because you actually have a little one on your lap. How old's your baby now?
He is about to be 7 months. So
7 months.
I tried to get him down. He's like literally just, if you could just see it, he just passed out
really
on my lap.
Well, but yeah, so he's
doing
like
really good.
Yeah. So anyways, you've been through multiple baby transitions, and I'm curious, do you feel like there was a hardest transition for you, and does it get easier as it goes on?
Yeah, I think the baby phase gets easier. I think my oldest is always my greatest adventure, is what it feels like. I've never had a 12-year-old boy. And then also my oldest girl, because I've never had an old, I've never had an 8-year-old girl until this point. And so that gets easier, the baby phase. I will say the home management is probably the thing that's the hardest for me right now. I've never had 6 kids worth of laundry. I've never had 6 kids worth of dishes, 6 kids to feed. And so as our family's grown, that part has become harder. And so I guess I'm kind of big about, like, when people do ask me that, I think what I want to say is it's all kind of hard. And I'm not sure it really helps to, like, quantify or compare our hard at different seasons. Like, because I think the reason why is because what I've seen with some moms who have like 3, 4, 5 kids is sometimes they might make fun of the new mom. Oh, what was I doing when I just had one? And it's like, well, you've never had a baby before, and it's all consuming and it's hard, because I never want to look back on that version of myself and think, get it together, Lana. I was trying. I had never taken care of a baby 24/7. And so I think it's just best to know, like, it's all kind of hard, and hard's not a bad thing. I feel like it's a working pain, not a hurting pain. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but it's all been kind of challenging.
I actually really appreciate that, because I tend to want to do that. Like, okay, I've arrived as a mom, and pretty much anytime that happens, you just kind of get swept off your feet. But I think that's really beautiful. I was thinking while you were talking of teaching a child something, like I used to teach piano, for example, and I never felt like the child in the first book, when they made progress to level 3, should look back and say, oh, I was so ignorant at level 1, because it's like that's the first foundation, and then you build on the foundation. And I wonder if it's like that in motherhood, where it's not like you were just inept and now you're totally skillful. It's like you create the foundation, but then you level up. I mean, you say that a lot on your channel. It's just like the next level. And I could do well to benefit to think of things like that in such a way where I'm thinking, instead of like, okay, I'm better, and that was like the bad self previously, and now I'm not, that to just be like, oh, the Lord taught me things in that season, and now he's teaching me more things in this season. So I actually really appreciate that, because
That's a great example. I love that. I mean, yeah, like, I guess in my world, I think about little kids learning to throw and catch versus somebody who's in the MLB. But we all had to go through like T-ball or coach pitch, and that's just the way it is, and that's okay. And there's beautiful parts of each little season. So I like that piano example. I'm going to keep that. That's a good one.
That's helpful. Yeah, it's just good. It's good to think about, because I have been the one to say like, oh, 1 to 2 is the hardest, and I like to like have that pat answer or whatever. Other people, it's 2 to 3, or but it's like, that's fair. They're all challenging in different ways. So I appreciate that, and your honesty too. That's really beautiful. So this kind of leads into another question that I had, because you do talk a lot about the concept of choosing your hard in motherhood. Can you share a little bit about what you mean by that? I know you've shared on your YouTube channel some about that concept.
Yeah, I think just choosing your hard. Like, for me, the example is homeschool. I have people who say, I could never homeschool. And I'm like, well, I feel like I could never pack lunches every day and get my kids in an outfit that's respectable every single day, and make sure they all have their homework, and make sure they get in car line. And God forbid we're late in car line, because, I am not a type A person. I'm somewhere down on the alphabet. And all of that sounds terrible to me. That's not the hard I would choose. I would choose the hard that I'm living. And so I talk about that in the sense of locus of control. I think that's something, like, it's an evolution I've had in the way I think, is that God is sovereign, and yet he does give us free will, and he wants us to grow in our decision making, and he's happy about that. Like, and so the locus of control, it just helps me so much as a mom to know that there are things God has put me over dominion. He's given me dominion over, and that's a good thing. And so for me, the hard I choose is homeschool. But when somebody says I could never do that, it's like, well, I could get my kids out the door. I could make lunches. I could, but I have a choice, and I'm choosing to do it a different way. So that means it is going to be hard. I'm not choosing hard or easy. It's just a hard that I'm happier to live with, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I do appreciate that, because it's really easy online to get very pushy about the, like, exactly why you chose to do it this way, and how you're giving up all of these things because you believe in whatever hard decision you made. But I think you're so right. Like, even I have a friend and they do private Christian school for their kids, and it sounds like an awesome option. But like their routine is very regimented. They're getting up very early, and they're very disciplined about it. They're doing like family devotions at 6 a.m. with all three of their young children, and they do like chores at a certain time and like church activities at a certain time. But I agree with you. It's not necessarily easier. It's just a different kind of hard, and it's what works well for their family. And I think their children are flourishing. And I think maybe the only time that I would say, okay, it's important to evaluate your decisions as a mom is you want to make sure whatever choice you're making, it's out of your values and principles. So like, for example, I could choose my hard of lying on the couch eating Cheetos and watching my children just like attack each other all day, dishes pile up or whatever, but it's not out of a value system of anything that what sounds good to me. I don't know. Would you agree with that? Because like that's technically hard. Like you're creating chaos, but it's like it's not out of a value. Like we really value providing, like in my friend's case, providing a structured Christian education for our child, and we're going to make these sacrifices. Or a homeschooler, it's like we really value that relationship time with our kids at home, and you're choosing a hard based off of that versus I'm choosing to, I don't know, endure the consequences later because I don't want to work hard now. What would you say?
Yeah, I think that's important. That's a good important distinction. And I guess, definitely living out of my convictions. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I do realize that I have created the chaos that I'm in, like sometimes I've made the choice to not prepare for dinner, and dinner still comes, so that's like a choice I've made. That's a heart that I've chosen. Yes. But that's definitely, I think definitely operating out of our convictions. Yeah. Certainly should be like A1, right? Mm. I think when we follow our convictions, sometimes it is going to be hard. And I don't think that means that we're on the wrong path. I think sometimes following your convictions, it sometimes and oftentimes can feel like the harder path, but that doesn't mean that we're doing the wrong thing. For me, homeschooling, in a way, it is hard. It's hard to be with my kids all the time, but there's so much reward there. And I'm following what I feel like the Holy Spirit is leading me to do for my family. And so I just say choose your own heart, because I think what I see sometimes in the motherhood world is just this idol of comfort. And I get it, because it is challenging, and we don't typically want to run into the heart of pain. But I do feel like the Lord says that while we're on earth, we will have trouble. Like comfort can't always be the goal. I think following our convictions out of devotion for the Lord, it's going to cost us some things. And so I'd just rather choose the hard that I feel like the Lord's calling me to choose.
That's really beautiful. And what I hear you saying is if you're choosing hard that you feel the Lord calling you to, then that gives a sense of internal peace, that even if it's hard, you're doing what the Lord has called you to do. And that can help versus the other kind of hard where maybe it's comfortable, but there's that guilt or unease. Like, am I doing what I feel called to do? So I think that's really helpful, even just for me as I think about our schooling choices. And we do want to homeschool, but I think there are days when it really does sound nice to pack up the kids and send them to somewhere else for a little bit. And that can be a good option. But if I feel called to it, then I should recognize, like, either way there will be a challenge. So do I want to live with
totally. And and I want to say too, for the mom who's listening, like, I really genuinely think there are a lot of really good ways to be a mom. I think that it's not one size fits all. And that's what's really hard about motherhood, is because we end up with like mom camps where people have like a philosophy that they live and die by. Yes. But at the same time, I have some really dear friends and they do things differently than me. Yeah. I still see really good fruit in their families' lives. And I just think it's not one size fits all. And sometimes that feels like it comes from a place of pride. So I think that we just have to stay so close to what we feel like the Lord's leading our family to do. So, yeah.
Yeah, I have seen that so much, even just in the homeschooling space with like, it's just funny because I grew up because I was homeschooled, there were very few curriculum options. So almost no one was doing like Charlotte Mason or classical. A lot of it was just like Bob Jones textbooks type situations. But I still see like the Lord work through that, and I think now like these beautiful families with children who know and love the Lord, and then I know people in all the different curriculums, right, where they chose that, and it's like
Mm.
so easy to get. Even now, I feel like I don't fit in any of the homeschooling camps, because I'm like I do think there's a lot of freedom, or whether it's like the food mommy wars. I grew up on frozen pizzas, and I don't do that a ton for my kids, but I don't know. I don't think it really negatively affected me. Maybe that's not something I should say, but it's just interesting. Like, yeah, just all the things we can get up in arms about, and then you zoom out
Mm.
20 years. It's like, I think the Lord still used, imperfect people to do. I've been thinking about the verse, how the Lord can do abundantly more than we ask or imagine,
Mm.
and how it's not like 2 + 2 = 4, where if you put in the perfect inputs and you make your home perfectly warm and perfectly this and perfectly that, then you will always get this one outcome. And just what I've seen again and again is the Lord using like just horrible even horrible or just not ideal circumstances, and he uses them for his glory, and people could say, wow, like I wouldn't have expected that, but the Lord definitely worked and he gets the glory.
Mm.
So that does, yeah, give me comfort.
Hey, mamas, if you have experienced value from this show and feel like it's taught you something or helped you grow, it would mean so much to me if you went onto Apple Podcasts and Spotify and left a 5-star rating and review. I often forget to ask for people to do this. So I know there are some of you out there that maybe didn't even know you could do that. But that is a way that actually gives value back to me and helps the show grow so that I can continue doing this work. So if you have 5 seconds to do that today, that would mean the world. Thanks so much.
As a mom, I think
Yeah, that's good.
one of the things I love about your channel is you do talk about like the big picture things where you feel motivated. Whenever I watch your videos, I do feel motivated, but you're also like very practical. Like I think you talked about putting on shoes and how that helped you. What would you say are some ways you've developed good habits as a mom, and are there any specific habits that you would recommend to a mom who's feeling stuck?
Yeah, I think just practicals for me is one, limiting distractions. I think
Mm.
that has been really, really important for me. When I felt the most scatterbrained, it's like I had chaos internally and then I had chaos externally in my home. And so like one way I've helped with like the internal chaos is I've just turned down the input a little bit. I'm
Mm.
pickier about what I listen to. I got off of Instagram. I got it's called a Wise phone, so that I only have like Spotify and Audible as my choices. And so
Cool.
that's helped my brain significantly to not feel pulled into so many different directions.
Hmm.
And I think when we have so many voices in our home, I have so many people talking to me and vying for my attention. I also did not need social media vying for my attention. And
Hmm.
so now I reserve podcasts, like this or Audible for a walk or for
Hmm.
dishes or for hiding in my laundry room for a minute to fold clothes instead of like having that competing. So that's like one practicality. I
Hmm.
say putting on shoes. I know everybody's like, ew, shoes have all kinds of germs. And I'm like, I get it. So, it's okay to have a pair of shoes I only wear in my home. But for me, psychologically, when I'm walking around barefoot, I feel like I'm not working. And when I put on some
Hmm.
shoes, it kind of clicks me into work mode.
Hmm.
And then also just like getting dressed, feeling like my goal, and this is something I'm working on. I would love, love, love it if I could get ready and my kids don't ask me where we're going today
Hmm.
because they just know that mom gets ready for the day.
Hmm.
Like it or not, like people respect you more when you put yourself together.
Hmm.
And that goes for my kids. My kids listen to me different, respect me different when I put myself together. It doesn't always happen by any means. But that's like one
Hmm.
practical thing I'm personally working on is the discipline of putting on some real clothes,
Hmm.
braiding my hair, and not staying in my pajamas until whatever time. Little
Hmm.
practical things that just make me feel like a better human, like show up.
Yeah.
Then I can show up better for my kids.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth on the getting ready for the day too, because my husband he's like really chill, which is why I married him, because I'm not naturally chill. And I love that. But he would be totally fine if I was like in sweats all the time. And so I've gone back and forth on like, should I get ready? Should I not? But I have found it again, it's not like you have to do this or you are in sin. But for me, it does help me. I don't know if it like dignifies the work, if that's the, but it just helps me to feel like this work is important and I'm showing up intentionally. But like for some people, like I have a good friend who's very disciplined, who wears sweats and athletic clothes every day, and it does not affect her mindset at all. But I think, and part of this maybe too is I would feel like if I got a last minute invite and I wasn't like ready for the day, that I had to say no, and that's lame. So there's just a few factors, but I do think, I don't know, I feel like that does help.
I think everybody's getting
Yeah.
ready too. Like, I mean, for her, she got out of her PJs and put on her workout clothes. It's like
Yeah,
that,
that's true.
like,
That's a good point.
like something in the mind that feels like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm getting out of like lazy comfort mode into like, now I'm about to do the work. And I think like
Yes,
the
that's
women
a
of
good
old
point.
would like put on their apron,
Yeah.
it was like, let's get to work kind of. And for
Mm-hmm.
me, it just, for me, it's just like putting on some tennis shoes. Like I'm not
Yeah.
wearing my nice sandals around the
You're not
house
wearing
generally. I've got,
heels? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, but for me, it just feels like, okay, let's get moving. And just psychologically, I feel a difference. I just, for one, always watched my mom get
Hmm.
ready for the day. And so I think just in my mind, like, there's like a self-respect piece
Mm-hmm.
that feels better. And so I think everybody kind of has to figure out what is that for you that helps you click in for the day, helps you feel good about yourself.
Hmm.
And I think, we're watching ourselves. So when we respect ourselves, it just changes the way we even interact with our kids, our husband, other people. If I'm walking into Trader Joe's and I just want to be hidden, it's
Hmm.
probably telling me something that I just want to disappear. I'm not going to engage with the cashier the same, other
Mm-hmm.
people. Does that, I
You're so
definitely look rough
right.
at Trader Joe's at
No.
times, for sure. But
No, that's a good point. I have had that experience where you're like in Walmart. Actually, yesterday, because we just got back from a trip, and I was in Walmart and I was like, I don't want to meet anyone, and I even saw like an acquaintance and I was like, oh no, I need to like avoid them because I hadn't washed my hair. It's like, well, that's a dumb reason. So I think even just realizing like this is part of helping myself be more considerate of others. Like I would have maybe talked to them if I didn't feel bad that I hadn't showered that day because we left. Like even just stuff
I
like
mean,
that. It's
yeah,
like not that
yeah, I mean,
not that you have to be perfect and there's never a time for running into the
yeah.
store after you went on a run. I'm not saying that, but I just think that maybe that can help motivate me. In situations where I'm just not feeling it. Again, like struggling with motivation to remember the bigger picture, which you are so good at doing. So I tend to get like very in the weeds. So I love listening to people who are like visionaries and big picture. So
And two, like what I like to do when I listen to anybody is, it's an old Southern saying, but it's like, eat the hay, spit out the sticks. You
mm-hmm.
know your season, and what. Yeah, I know my season, and so sometimes I'll hear somebody say something, and I'm like, that's a really great principle. It doesn't quite match my season, but I like this one thing they said, and I'm gonna take that, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
let that help me. But I'm gonna let go of the sticks because it isn't one size fits all, and that's why we can't find formulas for motherhood, even though we're like, please tell me the formula.
Yes. Yeah, we would absolutely love it. Yeah. I really like that. I was just listening to someone today who was saying something similar. Like she's an older mom. So she's found a lot of rhythms that work well for her family. So now when she listens to things, it's not for like an overhaul, it's more for like tweaking. And I thought that was
Mhm.
helpful because you don't want to just be reinventing the wheel every 6 months. You hear a new person and you're like, we're throwing out all the systems we've ever done. But it's like, yeah, that idea of what you're saying, spit out the stuff that doesn't work in your life season and keep the stuff that does. So yeah, that's really, really good. Okay, well, I know we're getting close to time, but one question I really wanted to ask is about my favorite video of yours. So you have this video that people should go check out called Creating a Home People Want to Be In. So can you share a few tips for our listeners on how to do that?
Actually, it really started for me when I became friends with another YouTuber. Her name's Margaret Matheny, and we talk on the phone often.
Mm-hmm.
And she is so big about setting the stage a little bit in your home. And she's really big about like moms feeling regulated in their body. And so she talks a lot about the light in our home. She talks about clutter. She talks like just the way our home feels and the sounds in our home. It's not something I'd really ever thought about, but by just being friends with her and, you know, I would watch her stuff too. She really talked about switching out some light bulbs, listening to just relaxing classical music, having candles sometimes, and not for show, but for the way our home feels and the coziness and all the things. And so then I was also in it's called the Restoration Home, like homeschool group. And I'm in that group, and she has us read all kinds of books. And there was this book that we read, and it was just talking about all the things that you might find in a home. It's a little storybook, and my kids loved reading it. And it talked about how the home feels. And the home in the storybook, it's cluttered. There's little like there's animals everywhere. It's one of those things where it's like it wouldn't have made it on Pinterest, but it's a real home, and it and the way it feels is what people keep coming back to. And so it's just made me think so much to get out of my head on design of home, even though art and beauty are important, but like how my home feels to my kids, that's what they're going to remember. And so when I'm thinking about creating a home, I'm trying to get back to that. And a lot of it starts with me. I changed the whole temperature of my home.
Yep.
And like yesterday, I just was a wretched version of myself. I had to end the day by apologizing to every one of my kids because it didn't feel good in my home because of me. And so I think that that's another reason I talk so much about almost personal development in motherhood from a Christian point of view on YouTube, because I know that if I'm helping the mom level up little by little, her home will change.
That's really good. Are there specific things you've done to try to cultivate that warmth, or do you really think it's just mainly your attitude and how you show up at home, or is it more than that you've tried to cultivate?
I think just thinking about how am I making them feel? How am I making them feel when I ask them to do these chores? Am I barking at them, or am I inviting them to be a part of teamwork? I think little things like swapping out my light bulbs, because if it's warmth and it feels almost like candlelight, like I'm down in a basement right now, but just when I changed out my light bulbs, the kids literally were like, "Mom, this feels so cozy." I never said a word. I didn't say why I was doing it.
Yeah.
When I lit the first candle and put it down on the dining room table over a very subpar dinner, the kids were like, "I love this. This feels so cozy." And it just drew us together.
Yeah.
And it's true. Fire brings people together. That is a group dynamic principle that people have known for forever. And that's why you have campfires. And so if you turn off all the lights and you put a candle in the middle of the table, the only thing that's happening is that connectiveness that's happening around the table. And so relaxing classical, it helps toddler tantrums. I mean, I used to come to the dinner table with anxiety having to eat with a 2-year-old. Anxiety.
Yeah. We've had that too.
You know? Yeah. I'm like, why am I even here? Why did I even make this meal? Why did I even sit down with you? You know? So just little tiny tricks like that can change the whole connectedness of a home.
I think it's true. I know we did candles with Cheerios when my son was like 1, and he looked at me, he's like, "This is a special meal, Mommy." And I was like, "Oh my." But it's like the candle that
so sweet.
Yeah, it's so, and I think it gives kids something to look forward to when they are, we've had similar, like, I feel like meals go through seasons of, like, being very peaceful, and then you have one kid that's having a really hard time, so we've had those seasons, too, where you're just, like, dreading the drama that will probably incur, and, so I think that's really smart to make some, like, tangible things to try to make it beautiful and inviting and welcoming. You also, I was thinking, I just started copying you on this. You posted somewhere about saying to your kids, like before they go to bed, you were saying to say, like, "Is there anything you could do to make me love you more?" And the answer is no. "Is there anything you could do to make me love you less?" And the answer is no. And they will request that no, and then, like, they'll request that now. It's so funny. And then my 3-year-old will say at the end of that, he's like, "No, you love me bunches," you know, but it's like this, like, warm, again, it's like, it's not this tangible thing. but it's like just this a little bit of warmth in like these different places of our day. And I think you do a really good job of encouraging that, because I do think there's a lot of YouTubers out there that focus on logistics. They nail the logistics, you know, but you can nail the logistics and have a miserable home. And I have people in my life that are like that, you know, at different times as I grew up, where the logistics were spot on, but nobody wanted to be with them. So I really appreciate how you highlight, like, there has to be warmth, and you give really practical ways of how to do that. I know I've talked a lot about your YouTube channel, but can you share with our listeners a little bit about how they can find you and the different resources you offer? I know you at least have a really cool birth class, but anything, how can they find you, all your resources, all that good stuff?
Yeah. So, well, before I say that, I just want to say that, yes, that phrase, I talked about it actually with one of my kids today when we were talking about what is integrity, and integrity is, you know, being a whole person. And we were talking about truthfulness and talk about not lying. And I was really encouraging that child to be truthful because, well, I kind of knew they weren't being, but we we all struggle with that. And I just said, remember what I say. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you could tell me that would take away any of my love. So why not just be truthful, right? And that's how I feel about the Lord, is that we can't lose any of his love. And, you know, so, and the way we perform at home doesn't make him love us more. So I feel like it's something that I need to be reminded of as somebody who like wants to shoot for the top all the time, you know, with the athlete mentality, is that I already have all the love I'm ever going to have from him. So, just to operate from that place. But yeah, I just revamped my website. So girlteachme.com. We've got like lots of different blog posts on there. There's a pregnancy survival guide. There's also like 64 books that I've used that I pull from all the time in motherhood, like my trusted book list that I really feel like could be like an asset. And it has like different, like even cleaning and home and parenting and different things like that. I know a lot of people ask me like, what do you think about discipline with kids? I'm like, well, go check out that.
Go read this.
Yeah, those are the kind of controversial thing to talk about. But those books have been very helpful to me. I think readers are leaders and leaders are readers. So I encourage women to like get a good book list you trust. And so yeah, definitely on YouTube about once a week right now. And kind of random that I have a birth class, because not what I talk about on YouTube all the time, but I've had 6 natural births, and not because I'm super awesome or super woman. I feel like there's some things that I kind of learned beforehand that I really want to impart to women and that I've learned along the way, because I just want to save some women from having just a traumatic birth experience if they don't have to. And I saw where you did a VBAC after 2. Was that, or did you interview somebody?
Yeah, no, I did. Yeah, praise the Lord. Yeah, it was a situation where I think my first was I like think it saved our son's life. But then the second, I'm not sure was medically necessary. And so I could just speak to like both like I'm so thankful we have modern medicine, but also I think it's, I think that sometimes there can be too many interventions. And so I think your course is so neat because it's from a Christian perspective. So it's not woo-woo, you know, it's not, I feel like sometimes the natural birth space can get crazy, but I also think it's really valuable. It's really valuable to have someone that has actually done it, you know, because sometimes people have like one natural birth and then but you've done it 6 times, like praise the Lord. But it sounds like, I think you have some real wisdom to share, because a lot of people cannot say that they've done that. So, yeah.
Well, and it's just something that you're absolutely right. It can be kind of woo-woo. And I saw like, okay, I don't feel like enough people are talking about this from a Christian perspective. So I started there when it came to courses and stuff. So, so cool. But it's not what I talk about all the time on YouTube. I definitely have some birth videos, but not all the time. So and I'm not on Instagram right now, but I send out a Friday email where I share like in real time what's happening and
how neat.
Things I'm listening to, what I'm inspired by. So that's been going out almost 3 years every Friday. So
good for you. That's something I admire. You're very consistent, which I want to learn from. That's just really cool.
Well, I just had to get some help. Yeah.
Can people sign up on your website for that, or
so you can go and sign up. I have all of that on the website. So ideas for intentionality on Friday.
Cool. I'm probably going to go sign up for that. Thank you.
Okay.
Well,
sounds good,
Lana,
Hannah.
thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. This is great.
Okay, take care.